In this EcoWest presentation, we explore trends to use public funding for conserving land and open spaces in the West. As we explored in the EcoWest dashboard on land, the prevalence of public land is one of the defining features of the West. This map shows that all Western states have at least 30% of their land under federal ownership. Conservation finance initiatives, which is a process of raising public funding through ballot or legislative measures, can provide a critical source of funding to protect land in areas not under federal ownership. These initiatives are used for a wide variety of purposes, including to protect land adjacent to national parks that serve as key wildlife migration corridors, to safeguard land from encroaching human development, to place conservation easements on agricultural land, and even to maintain urban parks and trails. Through conservation finance initiatives, states can create funding sources designated specifically for conservation purposes. These measures are approved directly by the public via ballot measures, or by legislatures that allocate funding via budget line items or general appropriations. 5 states in the West, which are marked in blue on this map, have used dedicated funding sources for conservation. These sources can include lottery proceeds, oil and gas royalties, real estate transfer taxes, sales taxes, and property taxes. The Great Outdoors Colorado Program, or GOCO, is a funding program that the state citizens approved in a 1992 ballot measure. GOCO has committed roughly $775 million from lottery proceeds to fund 3,500 conservation projects in every county throughout the state. In 2010, the state of Oregon also approved a ballot measure which secures lottery funds in perpetuity for the Oregon State Parks Department. During 1988 to 2012, voters in the 12 western states approved roughly 300 out of 460 ballot measures to provide funding for open space protection. These measures have provided nearly $25 billion in new funding to conserve open spaces. The amount of public conservation funding generated in the West during the past decade was roughly double that generated during the previous decade. It's also worth noting that the amount of approved conservation funding varies widely by state across the West. During 1988 to 2012, California approved more conservation funding than all other Western states combined. Federal funding has played an important role in making conservation finance activities possible, since they can provide an important base to leverage state and local level funding. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, established by Congress in 1965, allocates a portion of oil and gas revenues for conservation purposes. Throughout the history of the program, $15.5 billion has been appropriated, which has been allocated among federal land acquisition at 63%, state grant programs at 26%, and other programs at 11%. In the West, funding from LWCF has been used to protect iconic areas such as the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem in Montana, Big Sur in Central California, and the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. The LWCF program was originally designed as a 50-year dedicated funding source. It is scheduled to end in 2015, which has prompted environmental organizations to advocate for its renewal or the creation of a fund that supplants it. Please visit ecowest.org to download slides and find other resources related to environmental trends in the West.